Hello and welcome to another Stratco how-to video, and today I'm going to be showing you how to install synthetic turf. But before we get into the detail of how to put all of that together, it's worth spending a moment or two talking about whether synthetic turf is the right solution for your property. Now, of course, with property ownership comes the great responsibility, albeit a frustrating one, of maintenance. And herein lies the first key benefit of synthetic turf around low maintenance. Synthetic turf requires no watering, no mowing and no fertilising. Another common question that we are asked here at Stratco is, how does synthetic turf fare beneath the harsh Australian sun? Well, you'll be pleased to know that our grade of synthetic turf is not only UV protected, it's also fire retardant and drains freely. And another key benefit for synthetic turf is that it is definitely child and pet friendly, and we're going to be talking more about this as we go through the video. The great thing about synthetic turf is it can be used for multiple applications, whether it be the front garden, the back garden, median strips, courtyards and balconies, play areas, sport areas, or even for parties and exhibitions. At Stratco we have a wide choice of synthetic turf available in pre-cut sizes and rolls, as well as a made-to-measure service to suit your garden. We offer 3 different pile heights with 7mm, 18mm and 35mm. As we're working outdoors all day today, it's really important that we've got the right safety equipment. So you can see I've got my wide brim hat, I've applied my sunscreen, and a bit later on we're going to be using various hand tools and cutting tools. So I've got my safety gloves and goggles ready as well. Okay, so we've got some of the things here that we're going to need to install our synthetic turf. Firstly, we've got jointing tape. So if you have an area that's maybe on a medium to large size, you're going to need to join those rolls of turf together with the use of synthetic turf tape so that none of the joins are visible. We also have a couple of options for securing the turf. Here we have a bag of U-shaped pins, and this one is more like your traditional nail-shaped pins. Both do the same thing, and they are required to be installed every 300mm along both sides of any turf joins and also around the entire perimeter of the lawn to make sure that it's secure to the substrate. When it comes to the finishing touches, the infill sand is the key ingredient. And here we have 2 different options. This one here is general dried sweeping sand and is suitable for any synthetic turf installations, and one that we would recommend if you don't have pets. The one here on the other side with the blue tag is suitable for if you have a pet, and the property where we're installing this turf today have a lovely dog called Lucky, and we're going to be using this for our top dressing for our turf. Now, if you have pets, you'll want to consider this product here called Lawn Reborn. It's a liquid format product and it's diluted with water and applied using a watering can, and it's here to help neutralise the smell of pet urine on your synthetic turf. And finally, for the application of the infill sand, you're going to need a stiff bristled broom or a synthetic turf rake. Okay, so we've dug the area out and removed the soil, and now we're starting to put together the 2 layers of base required for a really good installation of your synthetic turf. What I'm going to do is point here to the 2 layers that we have. You can see this slightly larger stone here. Now this is quarry stone, and this slightly sort of sandy cream colour. We've got 70mm of that beneath this top dressing of dolomite sand. We've wetted the quarry stone and compacted it, and then we've applied the dolomite sand on top. An important part of the prep work when we're digging out is to remove any unwanted items such as roots like this, and also have a level to work to. So you can see here we've got some lawn edging at the back over here, and this is really the height that we're working to in terms of understanding how much we've got to dig out and the bases that go in afterwards. Okay, so we've dug out the area and infilled it with some quarry stone, and now we're top dressing it with the dolomite sand and starting to screed the area nice and flat and level before the turf is rolled out. A couple of handy tips to get the screeding spot on is to use flat bars, and you can see at my feet here we have one on either side. We've got them at the right level and we've joined the two with a spirit level, and all we're going to do is, once they're in position, is take the spirit level and slowly screed across the flat bars to establish a nice flat surface. So we've completed some of our preparation work, we've dug out and we've now filled the space with the sub base, which is 2 layers. Remember, we've got quarry stone about 70mm, top dressed with about 20 to 30mm of dolomite sand. Now each of those layers is wetted and compacted individually, and what you're seeing here behind me is both of those layers completed, compacted, screeded and good to go, ready for the turf to be installed on top. An important part of the installation of the dolomite sand is the finished level, and you can see here that our compacted base of dolomite sand has finished 15 to 20mm below the surrounding edge, and it's really important to get this bit right to avoid tripping hazards. The plastic backing of the synthetic turf needs to sit below this edge. You can imagine if it was finished flush, it could potentially cause a trip hazard as you enter and leave the area. We've got our first piece of turf cut roughly to size. I've rolled it up and put it into position, and now we're going to start rolling it out and getting ready for joining the second piece to the side. So you can see I've got it cut and just offered up to the leading edge of this paved area here, and also down the side, and all you simply do is just roll it out. What you can see here is that I cut the piece slightly larger than required, and you can see that it overlaps the rear garden edging here, and we're going to cut it to size so it finishes nice and snug level with this garden edge here. Okay, so we are prepping up for our second strip of turf to join to the first one that we've just rolled out. Before we do that, we need to cut off this salvage strip here. So I'm just going to fold back and demo where that needs to go, because you need to cut back to the first stitch. So don't just cut it here, you must go to this first stitch, otherwise you're going to get, as the two pieces join together, you're going to get what's known as the mohawk effect, where the two rolls butt next to each other, but they sort of flare up a bit in the middle, and that's really difficult to get out if you go ahead and pin it all down. So always cut back to this first stitch, wear your gloves and have a sharp blade on your knife. So you can see here that we're running into a garden bed with quite sharp plants, so it's actually quite tricky to get a nice clean cut at this end. So what we're going to do is shuffle the turf the other way, and it's a nice clean and clear area to cut it on the other side. It's now time to trim this turf back to the path around the house. Now, one thing that's tricky here is that we're cutting across the stitching. So the big tip really is to take your time with this section, because you only really get one chance to cut this correctly. And another tip is to mark every couple of inches or so, mark a little cut in the turf like this. So I'm offering the turf up and I'm going to put a little nick in the backing like that, just here. And then we're going to move back to the last one. I'm going to join from here to here, and we'll work our way across this cut a little bit at a time. When you're doing your cutting, there'll most likely be certain hazards in the way, and here we have the corner of a deck, so we're just going to have to do a little nick, right angle, and then cut across to just cut around it. So as we did before, we placed a nick at the end of the piece, and we're just going to join up the area. So before we cut the adjoining piece to this, we want to pin this first piece down to prevent any movement. So the last thing you want is to cut that next piece only to realise you've somehow moved this first piece away from the pavers or surrounding edge, and you've suddenly got a gap there that you can't fill. So we've set out the pins beforehand, the spaced approximately 300mm apart, and now we're going to start hammering them in. Okay, so we've got our pins set out and we're going to put the first one in. It's really important to remember and ensure that your pin goes into the black plastic backing. So just use your fingers and part the fibres of the grass and place the pins in position. Pick up your hammer and start tapping in. I want to try and make sure that the fibres of the grass don't get caught beneath this top side of the U-shaped pin. And you just use your fingers to tease out the fibres. The first one we just used was a U-shaped pin. We also offer this one here, which is shaped like a traditional nail. Does the same thing. So we want to part back, make sure we can see the black plastic backing, and tap in. Okay, so we've got our first piece nice and secure, and we're going to roll out the second piece now before we join them together. This particular space here is slightly unusual, trapezoid shape, where we've got two of the sides are parallel and two of the sides are not. So the front and the back here are both parallel, but unfortunately these two longer pieces are not parallel, and we've got a slightly awkward shape and cut to do. But what we need to ensure, two things: this first piece, that we roll it out parallel with the one that we laid prior, and the second one is to make sure that the fibres of the grass are in the same direction as the first piece. Okay, so we've got our second piece and we've shuffled it into position to get both long edges butted up to each other, which you can see here. And now what we're going to do is gently roll and push and tease this second roll out towards the edging next to this hedge here and over at the back. So we've got our two pieces of turf in position, and now it's time to join them together with our joining tape. A handy hint for the positioning of the tape is to just peel back both of the sides there and just use one of the nail pins, turf pins, and tap it in lightly. And at the other end we have another turf pin already in position, and you just lay the tape out in between the two pins, then you know that you've got the turf in the right position. Another handy tip for the installation of the joining tape is to use the turf pins to gently hold back each side of the join, because we're going to peel off the backing tape in one go, and we don't want the turf to roll back and flop over the joining tape without any control over it. Okay, it's time to peel back the backing on the turf tape, and you're going to need to remove your gloves for this bit, otherwise you won't be able to grip it properly. So we'll just remove that and peel back a corner. It is quite sticky, so take your time with it. Okay, a handy tip is to re-hammer the turf pin back into position through the middle of the tape to keep it in position before you remove the rest of the backing. Now it's time to join the two pieces together. When you do this, it's a good idea to try and have a good grip of the fibres of the turf to prevent them sticking to the tape underneath. So you can see here I'm pulling that back and bringing the black plastic backing together. The joining tape that we've used today is for a soft surface install over quarry stone dolomite sand subsurface. If you're applying synthetic turf over a hard surface such as a tiled area or paved area or even deck, then you need to use a different adhesive, and you would choose a turf adhesive rather than a turf tape to make the joins stick together. Both pieces of turf are now fixed to the joining tape, and it's a good idea to apply a bit of pressure to the join line, and the simplest way to do that is to use your feet. So in a simple sliding motion, you can either drag your foot that way or just tamper it down across the join all the way across the entire length of the join. Okay, we are about ready to do the finishing touches to our synthetic turf install, and we are at the stage where we want to spread out the infill sand. There are three key benefits of using infill sand on your synthetic turf. The first is, once it's been brushed in, it will help the blades of the grass stand upright, making your lawn seem or appear fuller as opposed to lying flat. The second one is it helps weigh the product down, and the third and final one is its UV protection properties, helping protect the degradation of the black plastic backing. For those of you who don't have a pet, you're going to use the premium dried sweeping sand. The benefit of using pet fill is that it soaks up the ammonia naturally found in dog urine, therefore neutralising those nasty smells. Also to be used in conjunction with the pet infill is this product here called Lawn Reborn, which is a liquid format available in a bottle obviously, and you dilute this with water and apply it over the area with your watering can. And the reason why we use this product in conjunction with the pet fill sand is to further help neutralise the nasty odours that you can get through pet urine. And the way this works is it attacks the bacteria which forms, naturally formed with dog urine, and specifically it's the protein in the dog urine that causes the nasty smells once the bacteria is formed. So we really recommend the use of this in conjunction with the pet fill sand, just using periodically with your watering can. So how much infill sand are you going to need? Well, that depends on the pile height that you've chosen. This lawn that we're installing today is a 35mm grade turf, and you can see here that we're going to need 10 kilos per square metre. This particular area we're going to do next is around 15 square metres, so that's going to require 150 kilos or 10 bags of pet fill. So before we start spreading the infill sand, you want to use your fake rake or your stiff bristled broom to help get the blades of the grass standing upright. So just work your way across the whole area of the lawn, brushing the rake through the entire area to get the blades upright. We're at the final stages now. We're going to sweep our sand into this lawn, and a tool that we're going to use to help us do this is this sand spreader here. You can see it has a hopper at the front that we're going to load up with sand. You can set the right setting using this twist dial here, which I've already preset, and we're going to walk along at a steady pace, pressing this handle like this, and the sand is released through the bottom and distributed across the turf evenly. Keep walking at a steady pace across the entire surface until it's all been used. It's best to try and stick to the same path, just go up one row at a time until you've used it all. And now what we're going to do is go over the entire area with our synthetic turf fake rake, ensuring the sand is dispersed even more and disappears through the fibres of the grass all the way to the black plastic backing. So in order to achieve this, simply sweeping motions like this, and eventually the sand will fall through the fibres of the grass all the way to the black plastic backing underneath. Okay, we've got one final option to help you with the spreading of your infill sand, and that is the use of a power broom, which you can pick up from your local tool hire shop. Now the benefits of this product is effectively speed. You're going to get the job done much quicker, so I'm going to do a short demonstration. One thing to remember is the direction that you're pulling or pushing the power broom. So on this particular area, the blades of grass are leaning this way, so I'm going to drag the power broom this way against the flow of those grains to therefore help stand it upright. Okay, we're all done. Our pet field sand is nicely swept in and we're ready to hand over the garden back to the homeowners and their dog Lucky.